Arriving home from work, this local woman was unexpectedly terrified. Strange noises emanated from her shed, suggesting movement inside. Upon opening the wooden doors, she was confronted by an unknown elderly man. Instantly turning pale, she realized the true identity of the man before her. Norma approached the abandoned shed cautiously, so as not to startle whatever might be inside. What if it was something dangerous? As she reached the old wooden structure, she pressed her ear to the door. At first there was silence, and Norma almost convinced herself she had imagined the whole thing. But then the unmistakable sound of things toppling over reached her ears. The shed only contained a large dumpster used for garden cleaning, but this metal container had a hidden surprise. A frail old man emerged from behind the dumpster, causing Norma to scream. As the man attempted to speak, Norma stepped back and hastily shut the shed's door before sprinting away. She did her best to explain the situation to the police operator, who promptly dispatched a unit. While waiting for the police, Norma anxiously peered through the blinds, checking for any signs of the man trying to flee. When the officers arrived, Norma observed as their car pulled up to her driveway with flashing lights. Unfortunately, the old man noticed too, slipping out of the shed as the officers approached the front door. Frustrated and scared, Norma opened the door and signaled to the police that the suspect was escaping. She was disappointed by the police's oversight, which allowed the escape. Nonetheless, she led them to the shed, hopeful that any evidence left behind could aid in the investigation. The two cops strolled around the garden. Norma opened her shed. The place was stuffed with tools, so it was logical that the man knocked over some things in the room while navigating in darkness. When the police looked around, they found no trace of the man ever being there. However, with the lack of interest these police officers showed, Norma felt that their watchkeeping wouldn't be thorough. They were in and out in a hurry and couldn't have looked at everything. That's why she took it upon herself to look again. Norma searched every corner. The first 5 minutes were fruitless with no result. After inspecting the strange box and with no update from the police, Norma tried to put the day's events behind her. She poured herself a cup of tea and put on her movie. She hoped that it would take her mind off of things, but during the movie, she found that her head often lingered toward the garden window. Even far after the movie ended, the old man dominated her day. Norma then tried to sleep and end this horrible day. After a night where Norma was almost completely deprived of sleep, the alarm on her nightstand went off. Reality kicked in and Norma had to get dressed and go to work. The young woman dreaded this ever since the realization kicked in that she had to leave her house unattended. To do so, she called in a favor with her mother to give herself peace of mind so she had enough time to check in. Norma pressed her mother's name on her phone, which was on speed dial since they spoke daily, and asked her desperately for help. Of course, Samantha, Norma's mother, agreed. The help from her mother calmed Norma down a bit, but she still checked her phone while working. After 8 hours, not a single update arrived. The worried woman called her mother and demanded an explanation. But what she got from her mother was very unexpected. The demeanor in her mother's voice was off. Samantha grunted and puffed a lot when Norma asked about the house and if the old man had found his way back there. Samantha simply replied no before falling silent again. Samantha was normally very chatty, so this kind of curt behavior was very out of character. After hearing her mother's unreasonable arguments, Norma got angry too, and for the first time in almost 2 years, the family duo argued. Norma called out her mother's nonsense and said that she would come over to settle this debate. But Samantha didn't want this. She sounded panicky and asked her daughter to stay away. She did, however, hear something. There were 2 empty coffee cups in the sink. Was there someone in here before? Norma obliged, not knowing that a huge surprise awaited her when she arrived home. Her sanctuary was compromised, and when Norma reached the back of her home, she saw that the door was open. Is there someone here? Norma searched her entire house, but found no one. There were paranoid thoughts playing games with her. But when Norma reached her living room, they were all dismissed because she found the music box from the day before. Norma remembered putting the box in her hallway cabinet. She did this on purpose because the cabinet had always been her own personal lost and found. Nervously, Norma picked up the note and read it. "Play me fully to get the answers you seek," it said. She was still afraid that someone was in her house, and she wasn't 100% convinced that this person had left, but at least this was progress toward answers. The box played its horrible music again. Norma listened intently, hoping the crackly song could give her a clue. The song, however, did not present Norma with these answers, but they did show themselves immediately afterward. When the song ended, the bottom of the box popped open, revealing a hidden compartment. Something was nudged in there. With trembling hands, Norma pulled out 2 items. One was an old, wrinkly picture. The other was a large document that was folded several times. This can't be. In the picture was a small girl, and Norma instantly recognized her because she was this little girl. Next to Norma stood a man she did not recognize. She then unfolded the document, seeing a birth certificate with her name on it. The final clue was found on the back of the photo. Norma was crying when she read the message on the back of the photo. If you want answers, come to this address below. It stood the address. Norma didn't recognize it, but she knew the neighborhood. When Norma arrived at the address, she knocked on the door twice and waited nervously for the resident to open. And when he did, Norma let out a high-pitched scream. It was the old man from her shed. Norma was kind of expecting him, but still, his face frightened her. "I will explain everything if you just let me." Norma nodded while the elderly man invited her inside. Norma took a seat in the man's living room. After this, the old man introduced himself as Colin. "Instead, I opted for a special gift in your shed, the music box," Norma said. Colin nodded, saying the puzzle pieces inside should have led Norma straight to his house. "Do you have the contents with you?" Colin asked. Norma grabbed the picture and the document from her coat and placed them on the table. "What does it mean? Please explain. I'm so confused," Norma said. "I'm your father, Norma." Colin's statement did make sense. It entailed an affair while she was already married to Norma's father. "We weren't planning on falling in love. Things just happened. One thing led to another, and you were born." Colin wanted to love and raise Norma. However, with Samantha's marriage still stable and intact, they both agreed it could not happen. So the affair ended. "You grew up with your mother, and I promised to stay away so you could live a normal life." Norma's father never knew. As far as he was concerned, he was the father. Norma watched as tears welled up in the old man's eyes during his explanation, and the sight tugged at her heartstrings. "The picture is my only keepsake, but I yearn for more," Colin revealed. He had tried to build a new family, and they had been happy for many years, but they had never been blessed with children. "After my wife passed away a few years ago, my outlook on life changed. I spent many sleepless nights pondering lost opportunities and regrets, and my greatest regret was not reconnecting with my only child, you." Colin explained that before the shed incident, he had visited Norma's mother several times, attempting to convince her to reconcile and reunite him with his daughter. However, Samantha believed it wasn't a wise idea. Even after Norma's father passed away, Samantha remained firm in her refusal. "I went against her wishes to apologize and try to rekindle something, but instead, I unexpectedly met your mother." The two former lovers had a heated argument that eventually led them to Samantha's house. "The 2 cups of coffee," Norma recalled. She examined the birth certificate with her name and Colin's signature on it. It appeared genuine, making it difficult to question the evidence. Norma began to cry, and Colin watched, wondering what was going through his daughter's mind. Then, unexpectedly, Norma threw herself into Colin's arms, hugging him tightly. It was everything Colin had hoped for, but it was the last thing he had expected. Norma understood his actions and couldn't fathom the pain he had endured all those years. Now 2 months had passed, and the bond between all 3 individuals was incredibly strong.